Okay, hello and welcome to today's event. I am Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsrole.com, and welcome to a session on demand-driven and configured-to-order manufacturing. This is the second session in a multi-part series by the team at Arbela Technologies. We're joined today by three presenters from Arbela. Nima Bakhtiari is the founder and president of Arbela. Adam Russell is a senior manufacturing consultant, and Carolyn Nersessian is a senior data scientist. As we get started, please know that you can feedback and ask questions today. The team will be saving time at the end to take those. We also had a quick poll that I wanted to open up now, just to get a little more feedback from you in the audience on your interests and background, just to help the team shape today's event. So without any further delay, let's get things started. I'm going to hand it off now to Nima Bakhtiari to take the floor. Nima.
Thank you, Jason, and good morning and afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our second part in configure-to-order manufacturing session. As Jason mentioned, we'd love to hear from you around your roles in the company and some of the, so we can sort of better understand, who our audience is, and then also, focus on those particular areas. As Jason mentioned, we've had, this is the second part of a series of configure-to-order manufacturing sessions we are having. The very first part was around discussing the industry challenges and what the configure-order manufacturing, how it came about, and then really getting feedback from the team, from participants around the strategies, and the issues that configure-to-order manufacturers are facing. This part two, which is today, discuss the feedback, and discuss the various solutions that we've heard of request from you. And then one particular area has been around, how do I really reduce my order or quote to cash, which is really configuration and order management, and how do I really get the information I need to drive my business, typically a BI type set of solutions, and then the other part was discussing the implementation methodology. So those are the objectives and the agenda for today's session is we will have a summary of trends and challenges, what we've discussed, and some of the information that we've gathered since then. And I want to thank those people that have given us feedback and being engaged with us. And then, as I mentioned, the quote to order and quote to, let's say, promise date has been one of the key areas of concern. And we will talk about that. And we have a session around how a typical configure to order and sales order can be done using Dynamics AX7, if you will. And then we will talk about business intelligence, the sales, products, customer purchasing type data that people may be wanting, and what kind of platform you may need in order to really give the business the information they need. And of course, all these things are great. How do you really implement, and how do you really enable an enterprise? So there is a session around the implementation methodology as well. So with that said, we'd like to dive in and tell you a little bit about Arbela. For those of you, excuse me, that don't know Arbela, Arbela was founded in 2002, and I'm trying to get this little mouse working to go to the next session, next slide. Um, yep, got it. So I mentioned, as Jason mentioned, just a quick background and of the speakers. I won't go through it. I will be driving the beginning of the session, and Adam Russell will cover the manufacturing, the order to sort of promise date, if you will, and then Carolyn will talk about the BI, the solutions that we put together around that. A quick note about Arbela Technologies. We are, known as the veterans of ERP and supply chain in the industry. We've got offices across the United States and Europe and soon in Asia. Our expertise is really in a large, complex, multi-company, manufacturing and distribution. And in addition to services and support that we provide, we have a series of add-on products that ranges from security, compliance, architectural products, managing master data, as well as manufacturing add-ons that makes the Dynamics AX more powerful, if you will. Our expertise in configure-to-order manufacturing is pretty extensive. We've got clients from, the professional lighting, to kitchen manufacturing, to industrialized products such as conveyor belts, furniture, filtration systems, complex products, project-based type products for large components, big asset type products. Really one of the areas that we're focusing is really getting from the product design, new product introduction, marketing them, planning for them, selling them, and servicing them, and of course manufacturing them. Typical clients of ours, they've got integrated supply chain, and they are the type of clients that they got to deliver in 2 days or 4 days or 6 days or 2 weeks, very predictable delivery dates. And in order to do that, they want to make sure that they've got the right supply chain, and a very responsive supply chain in place. And of course, John, we will talk about this today, and we have talked about it around the challenges that these companies face, from integration to configurator. Either it's in an AX configurator or an external one, and we'll talk about that. There are a series of very great, strong AX integrated configurators that we have experience with for more complex, configuration, if you will. And of course, being able to respond to customers, visibility into the supply chain and capacity is very critical. And how you manage the supply chain, the various postponement strategies. And we'll talk about that, advanced planning and scheduling, and multi-site and shared services model, and a series of other things like product numbering. We run into a lot of companies that they have a very smart product numbers. How do you really keep them? Because their organization is driven by that. Typically, the typical advice is, let's just get rid of them, use a non-smart model, because, having a smart product number, it has its limitations, but at the same time, it has its advantages. So we've got solutions for both, and certainly around BI. So with that said, I want to go into just a recap of our last session, is that configure-to-order manufacturing, and manufacturing in the United States is, thriving. And in particular, for manufacturers that are, becoming more and more intimate with their customers. And the type of intimacy that customers require, offshore manufacturers cannot offer. So this whole trend around mass customization, I want it my way, and giving it to our customers is really the norm, and it's fueling, our manufacturing sector in the United States. And of course, the recent U.S. Economic growth, the buying power of consumers and B2B customers, it's also driving that need. So what we're seeing out there is that in order to really take advantage of this opportunity, a lot of our customers have adopted a fixed lead time. I will deliver this good to you in 2 days, no matter what. And I will give you this product in 2 weeks, no matter what. That kind of commitment really requires the enterprise to, be at times have an integrated supply chain, so you have control. Not having control, typically people cannot promise that. And then it requires a flexible, a supply chain. And of course, it has to be profitable, because otherwise it is not sustainable. So with that said, the sort of this opportunity has its own challenges that we are facing. One particular opportunity is really the breaking the barriers from your customers, and the customers to really the different the organizations within a company. And this is a simplification of how people are selling in the industry today, in particular, in the social media, through web, either through retailers and distributors. And really, how do you really connect with that? And one of our, panelists and good friend, Gil Garcetti, would call it keys to the kingdom. Really, how do you connect with that? How do you really get the engineering and product design and configuration and all that connected with that for customer order delivery confirmation, for example? So that's critical. And then how do you really connect the organization and your supply chain for shipping, order status, and then, of course, the invoicing piece. So with that said, if you look at in this simplistic view, you see there are some barriers from one, just a little alone around the sales piece, social media to web to distributors and retailer. Obviously, we make significant progress in this area. However, connecting it to your customer service and sales, and then, of course, to your operations, etc. So there are challenges ahead of us. Now, if I, say, is your company prepared to meet these customer needs? And then in another, I want to depict a more complex view of this inter-department and inter-organizational challenges. In this picture, and one of the reasons we're doing this is really talks about the digitization path that and the challenges that the companies are facing. Obviously, in this particular case, we have customers, distributors, and vendors, and then from marketing and engineering product and to sales and manufacturing and purchasing, and of course the execution in the bottom. So just the product design and marketing and lead generation, and financial management. When you start a new product, how do you really get that design going and connection with the marketing, etc. And then how do you really forecast and say if this product is going to be profitable, or if there is a demand for it. And that process to getting it into a sort of orders and customer service and connectivity to web, managing the returns, and connecting in a configure to order model. You really need to connect your supply chain and your capacity in order to really commit to your customers. So in many cases, people commit to customers like a make to stock type model. They assume they will do it, but a true configure to model, you got to be connected to your supply chain, and then certainly to your manufacturing, and then operations for the delivery, and of course purchasing is another key thing. Do I have the right goods, and am I getting them in? Do I have the right processes in place around supplier managed inventory, for example, and receiving the goods and having that real-time connectivity to your suppliers and your inventory across your supply chain? If it's an integrated supply chain, do I have the right sub-assemblies in place? And of course, certainly, shipping and really sequencing the shipping, to your manufacturing, so goods can be, delivered in a succinct and organized fashion. So as you could see, there's the web of connectivity is required for this to happen, and not only the good news is that Dynamics AX does a really good job on really connecting these. Of course, the business processes need to be well managed and designed. Dynamics CRM does a fantastic job at the sales and the marketing end, and certainly a business intelligence, a tool that actually we will show to you, the Power BI and then the analytics capability is really understanding what's happening. What we're seeing out there is that there are some obviously CAD, the product design solutions out there that in order to design the products, and then of course the PDM, the product data management aspect of it, to managing the components, the changes and the revisions, and we also seeing external configurators being used at the web level or what have you to really for more complex configuration and advanced planning and scheduling. Really a capability that AX does not have, but really at times is required to have for that capacity, a better capacity planning, and scenario-based planning and what have you. The good news is that these solutions are available and they're all integrated with Dynamics AX and for you to use. With that said, I'd like to really conclude here is in order to digitize the enterprise, you got to capture all the data, all the parameters in the enterprise to really get the information that you need to have. And we want to demonstrate some of that. Some of the feedback we got as a result of this, people are having some strategic needs, like for example, hey, I need to really improve my quality. This is some of the feedback we got from you last time. People were asking, I want to focus on my postponement strategy, for example, etc. What we've decided today, in today's session, talk to you about the business intelligence, reducing code to order, which is really part of it is reducing order processing time, improving order accuracy through an integrated configuration. And then in future session, we will have a very focused session around advanced planning and scheduling. We get those surprise new orders. How do you really manage that, and etc. So that is one of the upcoming sessions, which really related to improving customer service and what have you, and as well as one set of questions we got just recently in the last 2 days is about consistent costing, and that's what I called it. It's right, costing around, product costing across sites. How do you really allocate them, etc. So the AX, and then, the standard costing versus, average and others. And we can definitely have a session just like that as well. And that's an upcoming session. So with that said, I'd like to just pose some questions. And these questions will be answered in our upcoming the demos that we have for you. Is really, who are our most profitable customers, or who are the customers, what are they buying, what kind of product configuration they're buying. How do I measure, and increase my shareholder value? And really, it's a combination of all of these. And we discussed around the simulation, the advanced planning and scheduling, and etc. So with that said, we're going to go into the BI part of our session. Some of the key areas around sales and products and business intelligence around purchasing, etc. So with that said, I'm going to pass this presenter to Carolyn, and Carolyn, you please go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Carolyn Ursetian, and I'm a data scientist at Arbela. And I'd like to show you or demonstrate for you some of our self-service business intelligence reports, dashboards, and the possibilities that you can have with these. We are using the Power BI platform, but we have our Arbela Data Insights pre-configured reports that align directly with Microsoft Dynamics products like AX or CRM. If you can hear me, my computer has just crashed.
We do hear you, Carolyn.
I'm sorry, but my computer has frozen. So perhaps Adam.
Okay, should we give control to? Should I give control to Adam to have him maybe do his portion?
Yes, and I'll log on. I apologize. I don't know how come it froze.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay, well, I will do that now, and hopefully you can get restarted.
Yeah. Adam, as usual, you come to Xavier, and you welcome. And then we'll get Carolyn. Where is Carolyn? We'll come back to you. So take your time.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
We can.
So, my name is Adam Russell. I work with Arbela, and we'll be talking about the product configurator today. I want to begin, first of all, with a few slides just to prime you and get you ready for what you'll be seeing in the actual product once we get there. I titled this first stage, the configuration in action. So this is where we're going to talk about the creation of a sales order for a configured part. We'll look at the configuration dialog box that we use to actually do the configurations, and then see how AX will automatically create a unique BOM or unique route for that configured part. And just so we're really clear, what I'm talking about when I say a configured part is this is something that we make, and that there is a decision tree that is beneath that particular part. And so we set up a decision tree or a product configurator within the AX module. We then associate that to a particular product that we're going to make. And then when we go to the sales order line, we then make choices about what options we have defined upon that decision tree. Beyond that, we're also going to talk about, once we get to the sales order, we're going to step back and talk about some of the setup options that'll make a little bit more sense to you after we've got through the actual sales order entry process. Some of the things we'll be pointing out are something called the attributes. The attributes are the actual questions that we ask about a particular product. Then we can talk about constraints, and constraints are basically the way that we limit or control what other options are based upon previous decisions or based upon the product that we've made. So we can make one selection, and this is going to change even our ability to make other selections elsewhere. Based upon our decisions within the attributes and the constraints, we end up creating BOM lines, and also we can create route steps for that. All of this, once configured, allows us to create something called a configuration number. In standard AX, we deal with this as typically a sequential number that goes one after another. We also will talk a little bit later on about how we can add an add-on that we have that deals with keeping the smart numbering. We make the connection between the decision tree that we'll be talking about and the product thread version, and then we'll also be talking briefly about some costing options. And the last thing I want to talk about as far as our slides go, dealing with our legacy part numbering and some of the add-ons that we've got prepared or that we've done before and talk to you about how those work based upon at the attribute level but also at the solver value level. Now I'm just going to go over here. If you're not familiar with this, and it may look a little bit different to you if you're used to the previous version. Most of the functionality that we're dealing with here is fairly similar or be familiar to you once we get into the different look and feel. So I'll begin by creating a sales order. We want to choose a customer that we have prepared and also a product that we have prepared that is ready for the configuration options. So we'll create a sales order as normal, choose our customer. We will go in, and then this customer will have ordered things from us. And so the item that we will be looking at is this one here. Now, you'll notice the important thing to focus on right now is this configuration field. Again, this item is the car audio system that we're buying, but the car audio system can be configured in many different ways. And so it defaults to just a placeholder configuration, but to add the specifics relative to the customer, what they want, we can click on Product and Supply, and then go to Configure the line. And once we do this, AX will then open up our decision tree based upon the product configurator, which we'll go into detail in a moment. And this shows all of our options. And this is all user-defined by the company, what decisions we need to go through whenever we're building this particular car audio system. And I want to choose the car type, and you'll notice that we still have certain fields that are open, available to us. A little bit later on down, I want to show you what happens if we make a choice and it would actually pull something back. So pay attention to the fields that you see right here. We have front speakers, we have rear speakers. So we'll make a selection about our subwoofer. So we do want one of those. You'll notice that when I said that, it pulled off amplifier as an option. That means that it is true, and so if we choose subwoofer, then the amplifier is automatically chosen for us. The next choice would be for the car audio system, either the 200 or the 500 model. Again, these options here are things that are all configurable. We can have as many of those as we want. We would then decide if we want to have a front speaker or not. So because if we say true, then this remains available to us. We would then make our selection. If we choose to not want rear speakers, then you'll see that the option to even see the rear speaker size has been taken away from us. Okay? Something else that's interesting to note is that the configurator out of box allows you to let you know when you've answered all the questions you need. And so the OK button becomes available to us once we've finished making all the selections that we need. Now, the product is now linked, or this particular sales order line is linked from this item number to this configuration ID. And this configuration ID in standard AX represents the unique combinations of materials that we would need to make on the downstream bill of material, as well as any options as far as labor and steps that we've gone through. To see what those are, you would then click on the product ribbon here, and then we down here have the sub BOM and the sub route. Now, depending on our setup, we can tell AX if these particular choices have been made before, use a pre-existing BOM or a pre-existing route, or we can just say every time that we go through and configure, make a brand new BOM and a brand new route. It just kind of depends on the way that your company wants to use the particular setup here. So I'm just going to briefly click in here on our sub BOM. And you can see here the particular bills of material line. It clicks off, again in standard, it's just a sequential number that shows up. And then based upon our choices that we made back on the configuration, these are the items that we need to make this particular configuration for the bill of material based upon the customer selections on the sales order line. Now, to kind of give you a peek into how this is all set up, we'll go back to product information management, down to our product configuration models. I've used the phrase decision tree frequently. Well, this is where we set up that decision tree in the product configuration models section. We're going to choose this particular model, and there are things in here that we want to talk about as far as setup, things that now hopefully will be a little bit clearer to you based upon after having seen the sales order that we just went through. The first one would be talking about whether or not we reuse the configurations, if we want to use the same number if the same selections have been made or not. This has an effect on the attributes, and the attributes are basically the options that you see. If you remember when I clicked on configure line, you saw an option for car type, you saw an option for front speaker size, or for whether or not, or whether we want to include the front speaker or the rear speaker. Attributes are where we define those particular rules. We can control how they are presented to the user through the user interface. So you would set up all of the choices and then decide how you want them to be presented. The attribute type, again, this is where we define something called a solver value. And this is relevant because if we click on our solver value, we can see all the different options that we may have, whether it's convertible, coupe, or sedan. This is true for any of the attributes. So what we do is we make an attribute. This is things that we want to answer a question about. Attribute types allow us to define what those particular answers possibly could be. Okay. Based upon our choices here on the attributes, we can also constrain choices. We can either do it with a table constraint or through a little bit of code over here on the expression side. And if you recall, whenever I chose that I did not want a rear speaker, that option disappeared from me. Using constraints is the way that we do that. If we want to make it so that based upon the choice that we've made for the customer, we then may or may not see other options, and those options may become visible or they may become required. I'm going to skip on down just a bit here to the BOM lines and route operations. And in the simplest way to look at it is to say, based upon our choice, this is the item that we need. So in short, if we say that we're dealing with, if car type equals coupe, the wiring harness would need to be this particular item number. Now this item number itself may have subassemblies beneath it or purchase parts or both, or it may have an extensive bill of material. But it's at this stage, using the product configurator, that we can drive the bill of material lines out to this particular subassemblies that we need, and can be conveyed over to a production order, which would then go down to our manufacturing line. All right, the same thing is true really for routes. This one is very simple. We just have a single route operation. But if we needed to control or constrain what type of steps we can go through based upon the choices we make, it can either be a single route with multiple steps, or the route can actually be built based upon the choices that you make. It all has to do with the level of complexity that you want to set up on your decision tree in your product configuration model. Now, as I mentioned to you before, we have something called versions. And these versions are the way that we make a connection between a decision tree and a product or products that can use that decision tree. In this particular example, I only have one product linked to the decision tree. I can have as many as I want to if the same product, or if multiple products can use the same tree for their decision making. We can set effectivity dates for this. Just like with bills of material and routes, if you're familiar with those, you have approved and active dates, and you can control that. Something that's very neat, I think, about the configurator is the pricing method. It can either be based simply upon the cost of the product, Or if we want to get complex, or if we have a greater degree of complexity, we can make it attribute-based. And basically what attribute-based does is we have the processing method allows us to say, okay, we have the based upon what the solver value is chosen, how much price or how much does that need to affect the cost that we're going to convey on to the customer. All right, so the next thing we would do is and show you how we would set up the different price models and the price model criteria. Again, this just has to do with the way that when we click on AX, based upon the choice we make, this is the price that gets connected over to the sales order line. So that is about all I wanted to cover. I'm not sure if Carolyn is back with us yet or not, but Nima, is there anything in particular you wanted me to cover that I didn't right then?
No, while we wait for Carolyn, Carolyn, you should be in pretty good shape right now, I hear. Is that okay?
Yep, I'm back.
Okay, good. Welcome back. So why don't we give you the presenter option. So there was a question while Adam, we'll answer a question while Adam or Carolyn is taking, doing the switching, if you will, switches to her terminal or computer. The question is, what are the complexities of the external configurators? You know, obviously, what Adam showed you was the built-in configurator in Dynamics AX. And with some modifications that we've done, you know, it really addresses quite a bit of needs and so forth. So the complexity of the external computers, configurators, there's some really great ones out there for different needs, some with pros and cons. I think the most complexity that we see is them keeping up with the latest and greatest version of Dynamics AX. Are they up to speed with the latest CU releases, if it is at AX 2012, or are they, are they available in an environment for like Dynamics AX 7? So that's the complexity that we're seeing. So with that, we'll come back to that other question. There's another question, but we'll come back to it. Carolyn, why don't you go ahead, please?
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that crash earlier. So I'd like to show you some of the reports that you can set up using Power BI and the ADI, the Arbela Data Insights module. What you're looking at here is actually the Power BI online service, which means that I'm using a web browser, in this case Chrome, to access all of my data reports from AX demo database that we have at Arbela. So all of this information you're looking at is demo data. When you use Power BI reports, in the service, you have an option to look at dashboards, look at reports directly, or interact with your data set. This first report that you're seeing here is our Arbela Data Insights sales report. You can see it's a series of tiles. Each one of these tiles comes from a report. So if I'm interested in looking at total sales, I can click on this tile, and that will bring me to a report, which will take just a moment to load because my computer crashed, so it's just resetting. And from within these reports, I can interact with my Dynamics AX data directly. For example, if I'd like to look at a particular year, 2013, I can click on the slicer button, and my entire report will update to reflect information that is from 2015. I can interact directly with individual components of the report. So if I'm interested in looking at April, I can click on April. And then, of course, I can click on several different options at the same time if I want to look at 2012 or 2013. You'll see at the bottom of the reports you have a series of different options to choose from. And what you're probably most interested in as a manufacturer is what your total sales are by customer or your sales quantity. You can set up reports or interact with reports very easily. In this particular case, I'm looking at the total sales on ordered customer amount by customer. If I'm interested in, again, looking at particular information, for example, the Wing Chip Toy Company in India or Otter Wholesales, I can click on that information directly and the entire chart updates. I can also select particular companies. So you can see that the charts have a great deal of options for flexibility of actually viewing your data. Now, if I want to look at product sales or product information directly by a particular product group, I can simply set up slicers or choose a slicer, for example, audio. And if I'm interested in looking at the total sales for audio, I have a figure up here that shows total sales against last year's total sales, and you'll see that the by month, and you'll see that the entire figure opens up. The table on the bottom opens up, and again, all of this data is coming directly from our dynamic AX system, so you're getting live, real-time interaction with your data. You can look at several different options at the same time, so if you're interested in looking at wholesale information for your audio product group or of the electronic subset, it's just a matter of clicking on the different slicing options. The nice thing about Power BI and the ADI reports is that you have a lot of different options for looking at your data. As this report loads, again, I apologize, the loading is a little slower just simply because my computer crashed. But as you can see in this particular case, once it loads, you'll be able to see a map, and on that map will be color-coded by location to show you where your total sales are by location. And you can slice this information by any of the groups that you might be interested in. For example, audio, you can slice by year or month if you're looking for specific information with respect to month. So again, as you can see, this has loaded. You can see sales in North America. If I hover my mouse over the United States, you see that the invoiced amount for the United States for this particular customer was $1,088. You can see the customer name, and you can see all of the information in terms of total sales or last year's sales and the variance between sales in your team. If I were to click on audio, I apologize for this going a little slowly. If I were to click on audio, the map will update to reflect sales that are only associated with that particular product group. The map also allows me to drill down, so if I go down into a different drill down level, I can look at state information specifically. I can also go down and drill down as a low level as city if I'm interested. Now, there are a number of different types of reports or content packs that are associated with Dynamics AX. Another example of a reporting contact pack that you can see here, we have sales and procurement, are the dashboards for procurement. And similar to the dashboards for sales, I can click directly on any tile, and those tiles will take me to reports. And those reports are, again, entirely interactive with any data that you have currently in AX. And so if I'm interested in looking at total amount spent against last year's spending by this waffle chart, it's a matter of just simply clicking on the waffle chart. Now, Power BI itself has some really nice features. For example, if you're with a client and you choose to access your data from the web browser, you also have the option to access your data from cell phones or from tablets. And if you're with a customer or a client and you'd like specific information, it's as easy as typing in a question. So, for example, I can type in, who are my most profitable customers? and it will give me options with which to present that data. So for example, if I want to see by state, it's as simple as typing that question in, and it will give me a figure for state. If I prefer to look at the information as a table, I can just type in a table, and it will change the data to tables. So natural language searches are a nice option to be able to use in Power BI. You can, of course, drill down and look into your reports individually at any time. If you have a series of options, you can create reports. And also, if you're out with a client or during a presentation meeting, you can interact with your data directly by bringing up a blank canvas. And if you want to look at your options for all of the different values that you can slice your data by, in this case, we'll just do something very simple, looking at total sales. And we'll look at total sales by customer or customer group. And simply by dragging that onto the canvas, I can now see the data. And then if I would like to dig down deeper into this and look at the information by month, I can drag that out onto the canvas, set up a slicer, and just simply click on the month that I'm interested in or the month that I'm interested in. So that is hopefully a good tour of the types of things that you can do in terms of reporting with Power BI and ADI Data Insights in terms of our pre-built reports and our data warehouse that aligns directly with AX. Nima, I think that's all, unless there's something else you'd like to discuss.
Great. Thank you, Carolyn. Good job recovering. I like that. There was a question around how easy it is to really create my own reports. You actually showed that, so that's good. You know, the other question is about the technology. One thing, you know, is what is Power BI? Is for some of you that don't know, is one of the newer Microsoft, let's say, BI visualization tool that Microsoft actually they offered last year, and that is basically the Microsoft answer to the BI solution for Dynamics AX and CRM. And as part of it is actually included in Dynamics AX now, and of course Dynamics AX 7, and it is one of the fastest evolving product within the Dynamics or the Azure family of products, if you will. And you know, contact us for more details if you'd like to hear more about it. So what we have done is we've really built our solutions, you know, our configure-to-order manufacturing solution around all Microsoft platform. You know, use of Dynamics CRM, use of Dynamics AX, Power BI, and the whole Azure environment for just a single Microsoft platform type solution. So there was also another question around configuration of CTO. Is it available? This configuration, or rather configurator, that demonstration that you did, Adam, is it available for AX 2012 R2 and R3? That's one other question came in. You know, well, Adam, why don't you go ahead answer that if you can, and then I'll with some subtleties, of course, and then I'm going to become the presenter to address the rest of the session.
In short, yes, it is available in R2 and R3.
Yeah. There is a subtlety here that, for example, you know, ability to reorder the product, you know, and ability to use, let's say, a smart part numbering, you know, technique. These are some of the small add-ons that we've developed that makes the configurator more powerful. Just to address some of those specific needs, you know, contact us for more information on that. So one other piece of the questions that the people have been asking is, okay, great, how do I make it happen? The enablement continues to be a challenge, for certainly at the C levels. When they come up with a strategy and goals, how do I really make it happen without, having a 2-year type product, rather implementation cycle? One of the methodologies that we've been playing with in the last 4 to 5 years is an agile methodology versus the traditional waterfall. The differences of the agile versus waterfall is linear, it's non-iterative, if you will. It's very organized and very detailed in each steps of the implementation. Is it the initiation, sales cycles, or the analyze? But versus the agile is more of iterative and a sort of shorter cycles around, let's say, analysis and initiation. You iterate. You make sure your analyze part is really focuses on the more the critical part of the business. And in the design and develop is also iterative. You don't want to design anything without maybe showing and developing things so you could really demonstrate the capability in many cases with the customer data, etc. So that kind of decision around next steps are made with great care and with more of a reality versus the waterfall is more about a lot of conceptualization. So with that said, so this is a summary of it. There are some advantages around Agile, which really brings one of the key areas of it is one of our actually customers pointed out, is gets the users involved earlier. It's the last bullet point. They get to see the product, they get to be involved. With Agile, the learning of the solution becomes curriculum based, which is educational. You start from very basics, and then you get it in a very iterative and action based. You learn the system versus more of a sort of a later one. One key thing around the Agile piece is really getting the design and then develop integrated and then breaking down the whole piece into pieces. For example, if you have this big scope, let's say from order management to production, manufacturing, purchasing, and the delivering, how do you really break it down? Or of course the whole financial aspect of it. How do you really make it into Agile is you break it into pieces, you break those pieces into pieces, and then you iterate on those manageable pieces. You want to make those pieces to be more manageable. And what happens in this case, those pieces, they have to be ordered in form of a building, if you will. You put the foundation down, you put the walls up, and then you put the roof on, and then you go in there, you do the interior, let's say decorations and all that. So there is a flow into building a house or building a system. And then I'm going to take a couple more minutes to talk about this. We get into Q&A. Part of the Agile, so it becomes pieces, right? You have, conference room pilots that are, more based on the standard Dynamics AX, and then you iterate more of a, till you cover all the business processes till you're done with the design and develop part, and then you do the deployment accordingly. So it is a very structured, very fast-paced type implementation piece. And just the last slide around Agile is that as you break the CRP break things into CRPs. CRPs are broken into smaller pieces, CRP 1A, B, C, and then therefore each CRP they would have extension development. It could be around enhancement, customization, data migration, reporting, and they're going to iterate. So we're talking about a series of very structured, sprints that really makes a bigger sprint, and then, so they become very manageable, very, very focused on the delivery of a predictable model requires that kind of sort of a structure model. Anyways, with that said, I want to just let you know that our third part, will be focused around advanced planning and scheduling, and some of the feedback we've gotten, really delivering on time. How do you really come up with automatic scheduling and and then really doing capacity optimization, site type decisions, and then when you get this, surprise orders, how do you really manage them, etc. So it's more about, scenario-based planning, capacity optimization, and you could think of it around planning and scheduling, if you will. With that said, I want to leave a few minutes for the questions, and are they, let's see if any other questions coming up. Jason, I don't see any other questions, and our time is also running out. So I want to thank you for helping us put this together, Jason, and thank the audience for joining us, and certainly thank the Arbela team, Adam and Carolyn, for helping us to put this together.
All right. Thank you, Nima. And just to remind everyone in the audience, there's a brief poll that will come up after we end today, a survey, just to let us know what you thought about today's event. We really appreciate any feedback you can give in just 15 or 20 seconds there. We have recorded today's event as well, and we'll be keeping you updated on that. So with that, we will conclude today's event. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good week.